You're listening to People and Profit, a podcast that focuses on elevating humanity through business, sponsored by Conscious Capitalism Arizona. And now, let's hear from our hosts, Jeremy and Sarah.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the People and Profit podcast brought to you by Conscious Capitalism Arizona. We're your hosts, Sarah McCarran and Jeremy Neese, and we're super excited to be talking today to Megan Porth and Luke Amargo about how they are elevating humanity through business in their organizations, Your Contract Shop, and the Better Business Bureau serving the Pacific Southwest. But before we dive into the conversation, we want to share for just a minute about conscious capitalism. Free enterprise capitalism has served to lift more people out of poverty than any other socioeconomic system ever conceived, empowering social cooperation, human progress, and elevating humanity. Good business is the answer to many of the global business issues mankind is facing, and that is what we'll dive into on this show. Now, conscious capitalism is a global movement with over 30 chapters across the world, and they are on a mission. We are on a mission to recapture the truth that good business is about doing good for all stakeholders, creating a higher purpose for your organization that can benefit everyone. Our Arizona chapter is focused on highlighting the amazing businesses and leaders in our state who are pursuing a higher purpose and consciously creating value for all. If you want to find out more about conscious capitalism and the Arizona chapter, visit ccarizona.org. So on that note, let's jump into our conversation with Megan and Luke. Jeremy, tell us a little bit more about our guests.
Well, I will be happy to do so. Thank you for that introduction, Sarah. Thanks for everybody for investing time in this conversation today. Again, we welcome Megan Porth, who is the founder and managing attorney with Your Contract Shop. Hello, Megan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, y'all.
Our pleasure. I promise you that. And our other co-joiner is Luke Amargo. He's the entrepreneur program manager at the Better Business Bureau. Luke, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here, folks.
So I would be misleading us if I didn't say I'm excited about every conversation. But this one has some highlights that I'm looking forward to, in the fact that you both have a history and opportunity to be leading conscious organizations with your own right, but you also have a vantage point to many other businesses and the journeys that they're on. And so I think your perspectives that you're both going to share with us today are going to be so welcome. And we're going to spend plenty of time talking about your organizations and your roles within them and what you're bringing to market. But if we could just start at the starting line, if you will, and help everybody kind of get an understanding of what your background is and how you have sort of arrived to this point in your career. Megan, we'll start with you. Would you like to share your story with us, please?
Yeah, definitely. My favorite topic is talking about myself. So this is a great place
for us to start right
now. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, thank you. So, it's really funny because when it comes to kind of entrepreneurship and conscious capitalism and all those different things, I feel like, to be honest with you, it kind of started with birth. And I know that sounds really silly. It's, oh, really? You were born into this concept of consciousness and entrepreneurship. And I kind of was, actually. I was really, really lucky because I grew up in a small town, and I grew up in a small town filled with my family. And I grew up in a small town filled with my family who owned all of the businesses, right? Not all of them, but they all owned businesses. Everybody did. So this concept of the good that business can do really was inherent. And in fact, it took me going to college. It took me moving into a big city away from my family members to really understand that business had this kind of stigma. I thought, well, don't they know that they are what's propping up these soccer? All of my soccer teams were sponsored by my family members, right? Like, do these people not know that sometimes, for instance, I have families' businesses that have bailed out things like the Chamber of Commerce when they were out of money? I mean, all of these huge fundraisers, and I mean, the tentacles in which they can have this positive impact is, I mean, it's really, it's not limited. So it was really funny to kind of move from this small town, which is, you guys probably know it. It's Lake Havasu City, Arizona. It's a small town where there's a ton of businesses there, to move out to Phoenix, where entrepreneurship was villainized, I thought, okay, there's a disconnect here, right? There's something that's kind of missing. So when I moved to Phoenix, I actually didn't decide that I was going to be a lawyer then. My evolution kind of came out of actually being a lobbyist for the state and then running some statewide political campaigns. And I decided, I think practicing law is where I want to go. And I think I want to help small to medium-sized businesses. And when I was telling people this, it was really funny because people in my family who are all entrepreneurs, they don't go to college, they start businesses and they create jobs. We're going, why are you going to school for that long? And then my friends who were more on the kind of entrepreneur side or more on the kind of intellectual side were like, well, why are you going to be a lawyer? Everyone hates them. They're terrible, right? They have no value. They're bloodsuckers. That's what I mean. People would literally say that to me. Sometimes people I never even knew or met. So when I graduated from law school, and I kept kind of trying to tell them, no, there's so much good that can be done. And I thought I was alone in this concept, you guys. I thought I was the only person who felt that entrepreneurship was the path, right? Was the path. And then when I graduated from law school, someone gave me as a gift the Conscious Capitalism book. And I said, oh, okay. Aha. Somebody else also believes this, and they've made money believing this. So this gives me an avenue to kind of push this forward. So when I started my legal practice, initially when I started practicing, because I read Conscious Capitalism, I thought it was great. But you know what it's like when you first get into an industry. I thought, okay, I need to work for some people, which actually really helped me in kind of defining what I didn't want to do with my law practice. Specifically, I always tell my kids, I go, yeah, dating is to figure out what you don't want to do, right? You're not who you're looking for or what you're looking for, what you're not looking for. And I kind of feel the same way when you get into an industry and you kind of are learning the business. So when I first started practicing, I started watching all of these different elements of a legal business model. And our business model is extraordinarily antiquated. I know I don't need to tell you this. I know I don't need to tell the listeners this. It was developed so long ago, and we keep doing the same thing every year, by the way. And then because we're so highly regulated, it takes us extra long to kind of be innovative and creative in the way that we're practicing. So when I went through my legal business model, when I decided to form my own practice, I said, I'm not doing it the way that I was taught to do it. I'm going to go ahead and go through every single element of the legal business model, and I'm going to eliminate anything that isn't client and stakeholder driven. And that was how I came up with my firm is virtual and web-based. That's how I do flat rate billing. That's why all of my attorneys and paralegals that work with me on a contractor basis, because on average, what I can tell you, if you think working with a lawyer is difficult, being a lawyer is very miserable. It's miserable for a lot of people. They hate their lives. They're working these crazy hours, and they have to sustain the overhead, the really substantial overhead in a legal business model. And of course, it's people heavy. And we're also we're expensive people, right? Paralegals and attorneys are expensive people. But there was a lot of stuff you didn't need. You don't need me to have leather-bound books lining the back of my office when you meet me. You don't need me to be on the 14th story in downtown Phoenix. You need me to be really good at my job, to understand your business, to have that compassion, that empathy, and that consciousness that allows me to really understand kind of holistically what your business needs. You don't need me to bill you by the hour. Actually, I apologize. It's not by the hour. It's the tenths of an hour. You don't want me to do that if you're a business owner. So all of these things kind of came to me as I had read Conscious Capitalism. I watched the impact that my family's businesses had on the community. And then I had this unique position of, like you said, Jeremy, earlier, wow, I really can actually help some of these small to medium-sized businesses, which is what my firm focuses on, in taking that, in empowering them, saying, I know that you got into this because you're either excellent at what you do, you want to make money, or you are allergic to bosses, right? It's one of those three things. But there also can be a higher purpose in which you elevate the business that will kind of get you through the muck, right? Because there's a lot of muck we all have to do. I don't care what you're doing. Neurosurgeons have boring parts of their jobs too. We all have to get through the muck. So this higher purpose, which we've been telling businesses for quite some time, but was illuminated in the Conscious Capitalism book, that is the thing that will not only elevate you above your competitors, it's the long game, but it also gets you through, the worst client you've ever had. So
Absolutely.
for me, conscious capitalism, actually, when I say I was kind of born with it, I was a little bit, and it felt so intuitive. I thought, wait a second, not everybody is doing this? Oh gosh, I got to sing this from the rafters. I got to tell everybody I know that this is the way to elevate humanity. And especially for being a female entrepreneur, conscious capitalism is right in line with how I want to run a business anyway. So it really kind of all came together, which I think we find happens if you're keeping your eyes open and you're working toward things that you love and you're paying attention. I think you can find some of these bits that kind of are pulled out of there that really help define how you're going to run your business and how you want to live your life. Because there's no work-life balance, right? Like, this is my life.
It's hard to put those boundaries up, right?
Oh, yeah. And so how I'm living my day, even outside of my law firm, is really, it's how I want to live in my law firm. And it was really lovely to see that even in one of the most antiquated business models, that this conscious capitalism concept can be implemented. And I can tell you, if I can do it as a lawyer, where I'm literally representing one person, it would be a conflict to think about the other party, if you will, a conflict. I promise you can do it in any business.
That's a great point. Wow, that is fantastic. I can just share that it's amazing. Part of the conscious capitalism go-to-market is changing the perception of capitalism. And to your very point, like, it's sad that you are the anomaly, that you grew up seeing, sort of naive, for lack of a better word, that stigma was even out there. And then especially within the industry you occupy, we are so grateful to have you at the table and championing what you're championing. Thank you for sharing all that. Luke, will you kindly do the same, please, and let our listeners learn all about you and what you bring to this conversation today?
I'm super glad to be here. I think in the conversation, I think it's established that I'm the PC and Megan's the Mac of the conversation. But jokes aside, right? What I think is incredibly what I cherish about what Megan brought up is this idea, and Jeremy, you hit the nail on the head here. When it comes to business, you got to challenge it, right? How can you make businesses seem apt for all stakeholders? And when you think about even lawyers, right? I have an amazing lawyer. He's one of our VPs here at Better Business Bureau, serving the Pacific Southwest. But constantly challenging the lawyer trope is very difficult. So God bless you and your enterprise there. It is a holy crusade, and I'm cheering you on. One of the reasons why I didn't decide to do law is because I tend to trail off sometimes. But the biggest thing is the idea of trust, right? That's a big one. Okay, I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. But in 2008, I swore to myself I would never jump into business. I was like, my goodness, will not jump in because a lot of my family members were being hurt by the economy. I come from the 3 M's, M&M, military, medical, and ministry. So all my family, they were doing this kind of world building in our classic immigrant family life. And the crazy thing about it is, if I had to be honest, one of the things that I think I kind of blurred out from my history whenever I used to say that, like, we used to just be the 3 M's, it wasn't totally accurate. Because my grandpa, he was a farmer, he World War II individual, and that's how he ended up becoming a citizen, right? So one of the things that he was actually really bad at was he just give away his products for free. And so we had to learn a lot of business practices, not only just to be a good individual, right? But you got to also be conscious about your business practice too. So seeing this kind of world of business practice has been super enlightening, because a lot of my friends and family, that wasn't a trajectory they want to go down. And then I remember I used to study like B Corps stuff, and it really was endlessly interesting to me. And as I was studying it, I remember going to a pitch competition just for fun. And then I was with another individual because I was an English major in college. And then I was listening to all these pitches, and I was like, my goodness, I think we could do this better. And then I talked to one of the deans, Randy Gibb, shout out to him. And he is a veteran as well. So it's always great seeing veterans engaged in when it comes to business practice and business development. And then I said, we started talking about having excellent business practices. And one of the things he brought up was conscious capitalism. And I was like, hey, is this similar to B Corps? He's like, no, it's totally different. And as he was walking through the tenets, I discovered this kind of flipped in my head that you don't just have to be a nonprofit to do amazing business practices. And I got to launch a business. We won some business stuff here and there. And one day, I discovered, okay, I love business development, and I heard something was happening at Better Business Bureau, and I just had to hop on board to be a part of it. So BBB, we're a 100-plus-year-old organization, specifically in Arizona. We're the largest trade association in AZ, from Prescott, Yuma to Lake Havasu, of course, to Maricopa County. We really want to honor all stakeholders and really build a marketplace of trust. You've seen the seal. So I'm here a part of the entrepreneur program development. And one of the things I really am proud of is our partnerships with Empowered by GoDaddy. So shout outs to the corporate development there. They've been amazing when it comes to social impact. So long way to say, super glad to be here and excited to have this conversation.
So I think it's important to kind of, quickly contrast, your experiences and a little bit of, where you started and where you ended up. And, and a big, a lot of appreciation to Grand Canyon University and, Randy Gibb. And Randy is on our board of directors, and Grand Canyon is a sponsor. For anyone who doesn't already know, they have integrated so much conscious capitalism into their curriculum and a lot of the supporting programs that they have over at their school. But I think it's unusual. You think about Megan. So she, understood the value of capitalism and how coming from a community where business was a part of the community. It was a part of the community. The need for the business was known. The direct connection and how it was supporting the people in the community was obvious. And yet then she goes off to college, and all of a sudden she starts hearing, through her college experience, that capitalism is bad and it's, taking advantage of people. And of course, there's lots of ways that business can be better, which is another big reason that, conscious capitalism chapters, are out there, evangelizing a certain way of doing business. So then on the flip side, we have, Luke, who goes to Grand Canyon University, and that's where he starts to change his view of capitalism through the college experience. And so I just think that was really interesting, and I wanted to just briefly kind of point out, of course, again, to, accolades to everything that GCU is doing, because I think that is a very stark example with these two paths. And then ultimately, we're glad that you both ended up where you are, including, on this podcast right now. But I just wanted to quickly, point that out.
It's definitely an interesting inverse relationship there.
And ASU has come kind of back around, because when I attended, it was, we won't say how long ago it was, but it was before Michael Crow, let's say that. And say what you want about Michael Crow in particular, but I have seen ASU grow in its entrepreneur and innovation space. So, and it may have been a little bit of GCU coming in and say, and having this really, real conscious entrepreneurial approach. And also, I do truly believe, and I think, Mackie would agree with me, that millennials kind of pushed it in that direction. The baby boomers started out with this, okay, well, we can actually own businesses. We can go into enterprise. It's not, you are like my grandfather, where he worked for Metropolitan Water District for 45 years and retired and left. It's, wow, you could actually start a business, have a couple of different careers. Well, I think the millennial generation then came in and said, yeah, you can have a career, you can own a business, but what else, right? What's more there? And I think that that's where GCU, like you were saying, it kind of embodies it. I am happy to see that ASU is kind of catching up a little bit and hopefully turning out some students who don't have this unnecessary negative stigma, because let's be honest, this is our system. This is where we're at right now. So why not, instead of constantly saying that the entire system works, why can't we just strive to make the system better and work for more people? And I think that the millennial generation in particular is really, really open to some of that consciousness. And I mean, that's when we were talking about, like Luke referenced, that's where benefit corporations came from. That's why people wanted to even do that. Okay, well, we live in this dialectical world. Nothing is black and white. So why can't business live in the gray of, okay, for-profit, nonprofit? Well, those aren't the only two designations that are available. So I agree with you. I'm hoping college will catch up, because some of my favorite entrepreneurs to work with are young people fresh out of college. And that's because, exactly as Jeremy illuminated, they don't know yet. They don't know they can't do it. So the sky's the limit. Let's play with it, right? Let's try all these different things. They have all this bravery, and they also have mountains of energy, which is really helpful. But those young people coming out of GCU in particular, I have noticed, just as you've noticed, Sarah, that they are they're sharp as a tack, and they are ready to take it on.
The other thing I'd like to add to that is, obviously the college experience, I'm sure, has some weigh in on where your thoughts get formulated. Obviously, I like Luke's story of sort of that visceral pain the family felt because of activities of corporations and layoffs, and you don't have to go to college to breed some contempt for the system that caused your family to have some hardships, right? And then when you spin to the other end of the spectrum to talk about Luke's grandpa's experience of the business was so generous, it was giving things away without reciprocal profit, which leads to a dead end of that mission because profit is what makes it go. So it's really the fusion of those two things together. And if you think about what college is all about, is to prepare people for the workforce. And what I really think I like to believe we're at a tipping point on is that the workforce is saying, I'm not just going to go to your place of employment because you offer, a handsome salary and some benefits. I need that purpose. I need some reason beyond a paycheck. And that's sort of, I think, the generational element that's really pushing into the workplace and, the consumer space for that matter is let's vote with our energy. Let's vote with our wallets. And that's how we can make some material change. And to your point of businesses where all those things happen, that's absolutely true, in my opinion. If you don't have a sustainable method of keeping your idea and your value delivery to market, you have an idea. You don't have an organization. And so those two things need to come together in balance.
No, 100%. What I've discovered is the students who get the most out of their MBA is also the people who are also developing their own idea. That's the best way to practice those concepts. And right before I used to work at Ranking University, shout out to the honors college there, and do some adjunct work. One of the things I discovered that we're on our way to be recession. I didn't know it would be galvanized by COVID. I was looking at some of the bond market, looking at some other details, and I was like, okay, I think the economy is going to change. And I want to make sure that I not only have, because I've experienced a lot of the tech startup world, but what about the Main Street entrepreneurs? The reality is we have so much support for a lot of these tech entrepreneurship realms, and I love Y Combinator, Techstars. But even in the name, right, they're so focused in a lot of business development when it comes to SaaS companies. So we thought at Better Business Bureau, specifically with our programming with GoDaddy, is how could we take some of the strategies that a lot of these millennial companies have made and put it in companies that are employing millennials or that millennials will have to take over, even Gen Zers in the future. So one aspect that came to mind was, the idea of SaaS elements, subscriptions, right? That has a lot of people to afford a lot of their productions when it comes to even look at Adobe products. And some people might get mad at me for saying that, but there's a lot of people access to these materials instead of spending thousands of dollars. You just get bled slowly. But with the idea of SaaS programming, can you embed that into Main Street entrepreneurs and say, hey, what if we added some kind of a monthly opportunity here? And the great thing is that there's a lot of these tech strategies that millennials have pushed that are pushing here, but not even just for making revenue, but also the health conversation, mental health. That's been a big one that there's a lot of things I'm critical of my generation, but I'm super proud of them. Is you'll come across millennial individuals in making millions of dollars, and they'll be really upfront about depression and some of the discrimination they have faced as well. In the past, these would not have been conversations. So it's been great to see even these millennial ideas, to Megan's point, even start pushing into a lot of these Main Street and older style trades. And even to Megan's vision of her company, right, it's such a refreshing idea and innovative, and that could really be something that could rejuvenate a lot of law firms as well. I've seen that effective, and I think it's really something that could be disruptive for sure.
The idea of the GoDaddy funded program and taking a lot of the SaaS and tech successful business models, but expanding it to other businesses, right? So you have any examples that you could give us? Not to totally put you on the spot. And then I was thinking, Megan, after if Luke can give us some examples, maybe then, maybe there are some things that, you've applied without, obviously being a part of the program. But it might, be a nice transition to see, that also applies to, some of what you've done differently. So Luke?
Oh, for sure. So a couple things that come to mind is like even looking at the old school style, like let's sell a car, like just totally contrast. And Carvana is a Better Business Bureau accredited. So shout out to you. And also you've hired a lot of my buddies. So I really appreciate you. Shout outs to Faith over there. But one of the things that comes to mind, right, is these are just slight edits to a business model that are totally revolutionary, right? Like, hey, let's drop off the car. And you'll notice that other companies are copying that as well. Specifically, when it comes to trade organizations, we have a restaurant nearby, and I consider it a trade. And I've El Charro Hipster, gonna shout you out. You went through our accelerator, super duper love you. They are at a crazy intersection of looking at art and just embedding that into what they're doing, and classic marketing. But what I do appreciate about them is that even things such as adding gift cards, right? These are things that a lot of Main Street businesses have not even thought about. And being able to add that is something that I think is very integral. Other things I have seen in the past when it comes to a lot of businesses is just adding a software element to what they do. I was talking to someone who does garages, and one of the things is, hey, what about the software? Is there any way you could be a part of the revenue generation when it comes to the smart home technology, when it comes to your software? You see it classically with a lot of home security. And what about the Main Streeters? Like, they're selling this software. Can you get a slice of that pie? And so you'll see a lot of individuals going that realm. One way is I've seen with some businesses is where, say they're a restaurant, instead of going through a Grubhub or an Uber Eats, they'll just launch their own mini delivery company and MVP it. Like, it's going to look like a minimal viable product. Maybe it's a classic phone call, but even just deploying some of those tech company ideas, simplifying it and applying it to them, as simple as a gift card, could really change what they do. One of the things is, if you could get a slice of that pie with that software, like you're selling any form of software in your Main Street business, even if it's home security, I think it's going to be really integral for them to really revolutionize what they do.
Okay, so look, just helping businesses to say, don't get trapped in the way things have always been done, right? Let's look at new ways that we can either partner with people obviously, like, the software is a great idea because it's good for the software company, right? And it's also good, revenue, it creates revenue streams, for both, companies. So, a new partnership, new way of looking at things. And then, like Megan, you already talked about how a big part of what you did to make your business more client focused was to, forget about all the pretense, I guess, or, lose the overhead and lose the, I must look expensive so I can charge you a whole lot of money. So what else besides overhead were some of the things that you did to say, disrupt, challenge how, lawyering is generally done?
Well, aside from all of the client-driven changes that I made, I also really looked at the legal profession. We have one of the highest incidences of suicide, depression, addiction. Actually, I guess we're beat out by dentists, by the way. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with dentists.
That's
but
interesting.
Yeah, I thought that as well. But regardless of where we are in the list, attorneys have an extremely stressful, high demand, competitive environment. So when I bring on a contractor attorney or a contractor paralegal, because it's similar in their world. Unfortunately, what I found with paralegals, which was surprising to me, and one of the things I'm trying to overcome, is when you have unhappy lawyers, they are mistreating their paralegals. And so you have a lot of unhappy paralegals as well. So one of the things that I did is I really talked to a lot of different individuals, attorneys and paralegals from all ends of the spectrum, attorneys that were on their way out, looking to retire, paralegals who had just entered paralegal school or were just getting ready to graduate. I wanted to talk to everybody to talk about what makes you happy? If you could design your job, you could design your position, what would it look like? Because they obviously loved what they were doing. That wasn't a question. Everyone I talked to at least started loving what they were doing. So they still wanted to do what they were doing, but it just, the structure in which they were existing wasn't working. So then I kind of reverse engineered back. I said, okay, a 1 to 5 year associate makes between $125,000 to $175,000 a year. You look at the number of billable hours that are required each week for that person. That person is actually only making about $50 an hour based on what they have to put in. Well, I can do that too for my paralegals and attorneys, but they don't have to come into the office. They get to pick and choose which clients that they're taking on. They get to make their own schedules. They get to actually pick the products that they want to work on. Sometimes when you work for a large law firm, you got to kind of take the clients that come in, and you sometimes have to work in areas of practice that you are not interested in. And what I've allowed them to do is kind of to empower themselves, because believe it or not, even though you go to law school, no one teaches you anything about running your own business or your own law firm. It's very interesting that they leave that class out completely. It's an elective. You can take it if you want, but it's definitely not required. So when I'm talking to these people, I realized that there was this huge disconnect. And the disconnect is that I am supposed to know a lot of things as a lawyer, and I really don't know how to run a law firm. And so what I tried to do with my practice was to bridge that gap for these attorneys who went into the practice to help people and wanted to continue doing so, but didn't want to deal with all of the, like you said, all of the kind of pomp and circumstance, but also the demands of a traditional law environment. And what it does, I can tell you this, that because of my practice, I'm able to work with more people from minority positions and more women. And the reason is because and I'm saying we, because as a mother, I cannot put in 70 hours a week on their schedule. I have to pick my times because I have children that I'm taking care of, and I have all of these other demands. So what I have now in my practice is actually a really great diverse group of contractors that I can call upon who are really happy to work with me. And therefore they treat my clients really well because they're loving what they're doing. So it's interesting that it became this like, oh, well, I'm doing this for the legal professionals, but really it also benefits my company because they're the face of my company, and it benefits my clients because they have happier, more engaged, less stress, and let's hope less intoxicated attorneys and paralegals working with them.
We can hope. I'm curious, not to overly dissect your business model, but how did you encounter these said people that were looking for, greener pastures, if you will? I mean, that's not easy to do, to just say, oh, I'm going to go find some contract people to help me on my journey here. How did that materialize for you?
Oh, it has been such a journey, Jeremy. I have gone through, there are some services that actually contract out attorneys and paralegals to you. I've used 3 of them. And unfortunately, because they didn't start with that conscious leadership, it's literally the same thing, just replicated over and over and over again. So how I was able to find these people is by doing exactly what I'm doing right now, talking in large groups, small groups, on the radio, on YouTube, with friends, with family members about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And once I started talking about the why I'm doing these things, they started calling me.
That's fantastic. Makes sense. That's the drive. That's the allure.
They care about the why.
Hey, Megan, why it's so funny you say that, because one of the things that really attracted me to conscious capitalism was the idea of honoring all stakeholders. If there's a one-liner that a collegiate young startup Luke stuck with, is that the idea that you could be ethical, you could be trustworthy, and you could honor every single individual. And there's always ways for companies to improve. But yeah, even to that, and I even think about this too. When you bring in those contract workers, they're living in a different world, and just give them a glimpse, I'm sure, hopefully revolutionize how they even saw what they do. But it's always a dance when you bring in contract workers, for sure. So I empathize with that situation.
And I work with a lot of contractors, and I can tell you one of the things that helps me with my contractors is flexibility. So, and I know that I am unique in this position because we have projects. We can do things virtually. I don't have to have necessarily a specific schedule. I mean, we have, I have receptionists that answer the phone Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But generally, we can make our own schedule. But one of the things that I ask my contractors is I ask them what they want, and I think that we forget about this all the time. Kind of, I love your reference to Eric Ries's, the Lean Startup earlier. I took that concept of creating a minimally viable product and then actually asking my consumers what they want. And I just kind of applied that to my contractors. I'm not going to assume that you want more money or more time off, or you want more flexibility, or you want more perks, or you need some healthcare. I actually ask them what they want. And that, what I love about that is it's twofold. One is I truly feel like I'm serving them, right? Because they've told me what they've wanted. I've asked them. But the other reason is because I'm a huge advocate for negotiations. I feel like we are all empowered to do our own negotiations. And it's one of the ways that I feel like we as women can actually close that wealth gap is not only through entrepreneurship, but in engaging our really, really exceptional negotiation skills. So I'm almost kind of quasi teaching my contractors, tell me what you want. Get real comfortable with it. I want to hear it all and don't edit, right? I tell them, don't edit. If it's, Megan, I need Fridays off because I love spending time with my kiddos on Fridays and that's the only day they have off of camp. All right, Fridays, great, not a problem. I don't want them to feel like that because it didn't fit within this kind of realm of what businesses have offered them in the past, that it's not available for them now. So I think asking and listening was a huge part of that loop in particular.
That makes perfect sense. You shared so much good practical advice that anybody could take into their own operations. And really, when we talk about conscious capitalism, it's not a one-time lift, pay once, cry once, and now it's over. It is an ongoing, every interaction, every time trying to find that win-win outcome and really authentically trying to make everybody at the table walk away feeling they got the value they wanted. And so as simple as the advice is have the dialogue. That's something that, is not being discussed at many business schools. It's not part of, as you said, a lot of people get their expertise as a practitioner of X, but that doesn't necessitate any experience in actually running teams and putting together a profitable, sustainable organization. Luke, I'm curious what the BBB is doing. I mean, you had talked about sort of these core tenets of integrity and trust, and obviously that's what the BBB rating engine is sort of, it's designed to provide. So what is coming to market for folks that are interested in finding ways to adopt more practical things like Megan just shared?
Wonderful. No, that's a great question. One of the things that we're super proud of at Better Business Bureau is even during tough times as last year, that we have really helped create a marketplace for that trust where individuals, when they're hitting hard times, are able to help really push forward and really argue for something. There's actually a John Oliver. This is so random. Today I was watching a John Oliver thing, that HBO, former Daily Show individual. And then he brought up Better Business Bureau, and I was literally getting ready for this today. I was like, oh my goodness, this is like the perfect anecdote. Could have planned it anymore. But he was literally talking about how there was no other recourse other than going to the Better Business Bureau. And this is something that we started. If you look at the history of Better Business Bureau, we are connected loosely with a major company. It's a huge anecdote, but I definitely recommend looking at our founding. But what we've done is really create a marketplace for individuals, consumers, verified individuals who've done business with businesses are able to, yes, complain at times, but also critique these companies into doing better business. And that's what I'm really excited for is how we're leveraging technology. Before I joined BBB, there's this word that we've been throwing around kind of as a half joke about the word stodgy. And when you think BBB, right, I mean, we're 100 plus years old. There's some things that we do have to rejuvenate. But this is something that my CEO said, and it just really shocked me. Of our 8,500,000 plus individuals who've gone on our website, and by the way, I pulled up the stat because I always mess it up. A good 23% of the individuals who go on our website happen to be 25 to 34 years old. and a good 10% happened to be 18 to 24. And I always assumed that the individuals who used BBB were in a different age demographic, but it was really shocking to see that. So we've been leveraging a lot of this. So what we've done with GoDaddy, and this is kind of what I've been saying, Better Business Bureau has often been on the very end of a lot of business development. Like, hey, we're an established business. Now we want to be BBB accredited. But we've noticed with a lot of young startups in particular, and it's so funny that it was mentioned that sometimes some things just look good and people buy it, right? And this has been since the founding of BBB, but a lot of young companies are really good. Like you look at your Theranoses, where they're just like reaping in a lot of funding and also business. But one of the theories that we have, I believe, proven is that business ownership and being trustworthy and ethical, there's a way where we as Better Business Bureau, where we could really put our, really assist in that journey so they could be in that accreditation realm, be conscious. And really, I say this kind of as a joke. I'm sure you said this often. Like there's a lot of unconscious business owners out there. And so this is putting them in the forefront of, hey, like, let's be with you in your business development. So we have a lot of seminars and an incubator and accelerator for people in any level of business so they could really refocus and recalibrate their ethics. So we've been really proud of that. And Better Business Bureau has been moving in that direction. In the past, we've been mainly at a lot of the tail end of businesses, but I think we're going to be on the forefront. And we have the largest trade association in Arizona. So why can't we make an impact in that way?
Makes perfect sense.
You know what I love about that too, Luke, that gets me really, really excited is, again, this concept when I moved out here and people were like, oh, business is bad and corporations are terrible. And I kept wondering, why are we talking about corporations? 99% of the businesses in the United States are small businesses. 88% of those businesses employ 20 people or less. So don't get me wrong, these large businesses have a huge impact. And we need to make sure we're holding them accountable. But what I'm excited about what the Better Businesses Bureau is doing is, like you had stated previously, I love some of these accelerators. They are very focused on exits and fundraising and all these different things. But the majority of the businesses, at least that I represent, are people who are not necessarily looking for an exit. They don't plan on IPOing or going public. They just want to have a good, solid foundation. And there's not a lot out there for them, right? To support them. Well, you have these accelerators to support the people who are looking to bring on a ton of money and go public one day. And then you also have maybe some sporadic support here and there if you fall into a specific category. But generally across the board, starting these people out from a place of consciousness. And I believe that small businesses are primed and ripe for this because we are literally touching our employees, our stakeholders every day. You know, if you're the owner of the company and you have less than 20 employees, you know who all of your vendors are. You know who all of your neighbors are. You know who all of your employees are. You know your employees' children and their spouses. You know everything about them. And this is where we can kind of take that. And I believe, Luke, by you guys doing this with the Better Business Bureau, you take these small businesses that are trying to compete with some of these big ones, and that's how they compete. That is how they do it. They take it from, yeah, we're smaller than maybe an Amazon or some of these other larger companies, but this is what you can't get at Amazon. You can't get the fact that our people are really well taken care of. Every dollar you spend with us, you know that we're supporting the families that work for us, and we're supporting the reciprocal businesses that are also around us. We're all winning, and it trickles out. So that it's really exciting. I didn't even know about this program, so I'm definitely going to take note of it.
No, thank you. That's something we're challenging, and what I've discovered, like Better Business Bureau and the Main Streeters we support in our trades, they're incredibly humble. Like to your point, Megan, like they just need to learn how to, hey, like literally, like this money that you spend goes to our family business, and this is what we do with the money. And corporations are really good at that. That's why I super duper love GoDaddy. They bring branding experts when they speak to our cohort. And one of the key things is that, hey, just flaunt it. You got it. And they just need to know. The people need to know. And I think that's the one thing that business owners need to showcase is that their humility is noted, but there's a way for you to humble brag. And one of the ways to do that is, hey, just put a little quote from someone, or just put it a part of your sales pitch, and just get used to just saying it. Put a little plaque on the wall saying how ethical you are, right? So just clarify that you really care about your community. And I'm proud to say that I think this is changing with a lot of Main Street businesses. but we're not moving fast enough, in my opinion. So we're on our way. But Megan, excellent point as usual.
That was actually going to be my next question. So as we look at sort of the purpose for conscious capitalism is to change the practice and the perception, given you two are in the trenches and are watching the business ecosystem very closely and are providing services to these people, how do you think that the meter is trending? Are we seeing these things reflective in the organizations you do work with? You just said there's a lot more to be done, but understanding that's both under your roof and with the Main Street at large and what we can deliver. What's your perception? How do you think we're trending?
Well, I mean, from a legal perspective and kind of advising my clients, I'm seeing a couple of things. I was seeing some trends prior to COVID. Some of those trends were, again, moving toward this more kind of conscious capitalism. And as much as we kind of like to tease Google about some of their practices, and there's definitely work that needs to be done in that organization, I think that they were really great in spearheading this. They were able to highlight the fact, and even actually some of these really high level video game companies. I have a couple of buddies who were recruited, and they make excellent money. They're treated very well. They have a lot of different perks that were specifically tailored to what their desires and their needs were, and they were able to employ and retain a number of these individuals who, quite frankly, were difficult to retain in previous positions. So they tapped into something like that. So I saw that happening prior to COVID. But what I am seeing more now, and it's really, really interesting to me, is I am seeing a shift. I'm actually seeing more people who maybe had called me previously just to consult about, well, I'm thinking about starting my own business. Tell me what it would cost. What do I need? What are the 5 things that I need, and how much would it take for me to get there? Those people calling me in waves now. I'm starting my own business. I don't want to work here anymore. I just decided, why not? And I think we find this traditionally in history. Whenever there is a non-economic disaster, people become riskier, right? That's how we came to the 1920s. And that's what I'm hoping will happen in the 1920s, because we didn't have entrepreneurship available to us. Most people put all of their risk into the stock market, and we all know how that played out for them. What I'm hoping now, and what I think I'm seeing, is that people are actually investing in themselves now. That their risky behavior, if you will, is actually, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to take a chance on this business idea I've had for a really long time, and I'm going to try it. Whether they're going to do so consciously will depend on, obviously, organizations like the Better Business Bureau, Conscious Capitalism, even the Benefit Corp, all of these organizations that are talking about this work that's being done. But I think because they were motivated by a purpose and by their kind of fire inside of them to do something different, I think that they're going to kind of naturally fall into some of these more conscious business practices because they have been employees. And those are some of my favorite employers, former employees, because they know how to help and what needs to happen.
Sure.
So sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, so to that point, I think everyone needs to do retail, IT support, or food once in their lifetime.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So make an amen to that, because those employees, right, like who've been on the bottom of the totem pole, you'll get excellent insight. At Better Business Bureau, something that we've been doing is just doing honest polling internally, just to see, like, hey, are we living out these principles of transparency and trust? And we're very pleased. We've been ranked really highly year after year about our employee. Self-appraised by our employees. But one thing that I like from Scott Galloway, he's an NYU professor, amazing individual. He talks about how this is really a make or break year when it comes to the American economy, right? We are coming back from waves of conversation about social disparity from every level, from healthcare to racial demographics to gender, even how we treat each other when it comes to something as simple as mask wearing, right? It's been incredibly polarizing, even in an economic way, where a Main Street business has to politically declare where they stand when it comes to mask wearing, when inherently it shouldn't be. And I say this with love to people who've been in these situations and have to navigate the many cultural CDC, et cetera, areas. But when it comes to business practices, right? I'll give you an example of a bad one. I'm not going to call it the company, but there's this famous business magazine, and they started something dedicated to minorities. And I was super excited. I was following them. And I come from a military family. I happen to be a Navy reservist. I got this Memorial Day ad saying, hey, to celebrate Memorial Day, we're going to be selling you these swimsuits. It had nothing to do with honoring fallen soldiers, airmen, guardians. It really hurt my soul. And so what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of that, where people are going to be waving flags and say, hey, we really care about this, but hey, also let's commodify this industry. And so that kind of realm, that's kind of the cynical realm where a lot of businesses may find themselves in. Well, I've discovered that there's a lot of good businesses that are trying to live it out. And to Megan's point, and we talked about this, is the idea of like, how do they treat their employees? I think with conscious capitalism and a lot of business development I've noticed is, how do you treat your employees, right? How do you treat your contract workers? And these are conversations that have always been intuitive. Like when you go to a restaurant and you could tell that this person hates their job, is way different than we see someone who loves their job. So what I see as next wave entrepreneurship is, for one, is hollow versus real from every level. Are we actually going to honor folks where they're at, whether they're their employee, or whether they're buying the product, or whether they're giving a percentage back to an organization? So I kind of share that Memorial Day story just to show how it shouldn't be done, but also to show that it does happen naturally when it comes to, let's honor people organically, and that's just being a human.
Makes sense.
I really appreciate the shift in focus, with the Better Business Bureau saying, okay, we're coming in at the beginning instead of at the end. And of course, it's a smart, evolution from an organizational perspective to, shed the stodginess and, make sure you continue to be, relevant and able to provide a valuable service. But it just really seems to, be a greater benefit to your people as well. So instead of a stamp at the end after we got it all right, getting involved right at the beginning and saying, let's build this right from the beginning. And, that has to save them a lot of pain, I guess, because, we, even just thinking about something that Megan said a bit ago about, I think she was talking even about herself and about how the power of purpose. And I think that's bigger than just a business having a purpose that aligns, that you can align to. It's like your own sense of purpose and how that really combats, some of the dissatisfaction and displeasure and burnout, because it gives you, a sense of worth and satisfaction. And you don't look for satisfaction in your off hours, right? You get satisfaction in all hours, and of course, challenge along with that. And so it seems that those are some of the principles that the BBB is helping to bake in as well. Developing structure and systems and programs that have ethics and trust in the core, and helping to build that satisfaction and attracting people that will stay. And again, creating that long, setting up those new companies better for long-term success.
100%. When you think of BBB as a platform, along with anyone trying to promote social good, right? There's a lot of ways where you could really say, hey, let's honor these companies at this stage, right? But where are the sides where we could honor everyone at every stage and help guide them into ways that they could really maximize their love and support to all stakeholders as well. And that's what I really love. Also, starting with trust, right, is key when you bring in a new employee, you bring in a new customer. And I'm proud that BBB has been really diving into this. And that's really shout outs to our CEO and, of course, our innovation team when it comes to, hey, let's kind of challenge this perception of what it means to even have any relation with BBB. And to Megan, right, with the whole lawyer thing, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's a constant evolution and of how do you challenge a perception. And this idea of a disruption even happens internally, that entrepreneurship that people talk about. So I'm really excited for you and to see how Megan revolutionizes the lawyer market. And nothing's more flattering than people copying you right? So I'm sure, Megan, people have been mimicking you too. We've seen that with things revolving social good as well. But I'm really proud of conscious capitalism, specifically in Arizona, with the waves of entrepreneurs that I've got to be part of from the get-go, and also see now that I'm connected with a lot of Main Street businesses there.
So, Luke, are you going to help Megan with some software to, really, help, expand and grow her business? I mean, she can do a lot more and scale. Had some software, to help with some of those connections.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am the PC, right? So what I do know is that there's so much software involving law practices that I'm sure Megan could give you a bit more detail about, but it's endlessly fascinating to see how even AI might even connect into law practices and small businesses. But that's a long-winded way to say, Megan, we could keep talking.
I'd love it, Luke. You call me.
Well, to me, that's the real power of what's going on here. And as both of you were sharing your tales there just recently, it was striking me the fact that, so Megan, as people are coming to you with the courage, and I'd like to believe that they're running to something new and better rather than from something that was just so uncomfortable that this was the lesser of the two evils. But as they meet you and you meet them where they're at, and you're helping to offer that guidance, and Luke, as your team through the GoDaddy program and beyond, all the programs that the BBB is putting together, is one of the things that really comes together is you mentioned the unconscious business leaders. We also add one into the equation. We call them the unconscious conscious leaders, meaning they don't know about conscious capitalism. They have no idea what the core tenets are, but they just have this thing in their heart. Megan and her families, like, this is just how you do business. You take care of those people around you. You ingrain yourself in the community, and that's how it is, right? And so to be able to affiliate yourself with others around you along that journey is so powerful, because even if you have good intention, you might not have any idea of the business models that you're speaking to, Luke, about, well, how can you get other sustainable revenues along the way? And that it's hard to be in your business and also being forward-looking and on the business. And so no better place to do that than as a team of people who are all interested in moving the needle. Your successful organization helps lead to my successful organization. And we can all, the pie will grow. We are not fixed on the size of this pie. And you two are perfect, examples of how we can deliver that in the marketplace and still get paid and put food on our table and do the things we want to do. Like, that can all coexist. It's a beautiful formula.
One thing, and I know we're getting close on time and probably need to, do some wrap up stuff, but something that I thought was very interesting across, both points of view was, the comment about, it's a big year for the economy because we're in so much of a rebuilding point of view, right? And so how do we do it the right way? And of course, working with the Better Business Bureau and, building, trust and, and ethics right in from the start is a great way to do that. And then Megan, you saying so much of what you're seeing right now are people starting businesses. And so it really kind of shouts out to the power of the small business to make big change. So, getting connected with a company like, your contract shop and the Better Business Bureau to develop these companies in a way with purpose and addressing a lot of the social inequities and things that really, we couldn't look away from, especially in 2020, and recognizing the economy has been so broken down, it needs to be rebuilt. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to rebuild it this time? So I think those were both some pretty powerful points that I at least wanted to echo before, we completely, end the call.
Thanks for doing that. In the spirit of that, we want to make sure that Megan and Luke, we give you both a chance to quickly please share how listeners can contact you and what information do they need to know that we didn't share. And if there's anything else that we didn't even get to in our time together that you want to plant some seeds, please, Megan, we'll start with you. What would you like to share in closing statements here? Closing arguments, Counselor?
Closing arguments, Your Honor. So we represent small to medium-sized businesses. We are virtual and web-based, so we're looking for clients who are small to medium-sized, but quasi-tech savvy, so there is a little bit of a disconnect there for people who don't feel comfortable handling everything via email, Zoom, phone, and so on. But you can always schedule a free consult with us. All you have to do is call our number at 602-753-1264, or just go to the website, yourcontractshop.com, yourcontractshop.com, and that will connect you with one of our receptionists. I do free initial consults for everybody. I talk to a lot of people all day long just about their businesses. It's like a dream come true, and not all of them end up coming to fruition, but I see the value in having those conversations. So I would love for anyone listening to not necessarily edit and say, well, I don't know if this is something that Megan would want to talk about. I'm probably going to want to talk about it. So give me a call.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you so much for letting me hop on board. I'm a little crazy, so I appreciate y'all like crazy here. But just go to bbb.org, bravo.org. Get a little military phonetic alphabet out there, bbb.org. Or also bbbempower.com if you're interested in any incubation, acceleration, business concepts there. We're remixing the website, always innovating. We're never done. But we're super excited just to really be a part of anyone's journey, especially if you're a Main Street business trying to get a leg up. We super duper appreciate you. And to Megan's point, really the backbone of our economy really relies on you and your conscious efforts in a very unconscious world. See, I'm trying to put a little bow tie on this thing.
That's perfect. I don't even want to say anything after that.
Well, I do, of course.
Yes,
I
of
have
course
one
you
last
do.
thing to say, and that is to learn more about conscious capitalism or to get involved with Conscious Capitalism Arizona chapter, of course, ccarizona.org. A couple of things that are coming up. This Wednesday, we have a conscious business journey in the middle of the day. You go to CC Arizona today, register in time to join us on Wednesday. And we've got Shane Jackson from Jackson Healthcare. Great, conscious business journey story, to hear about his success in the company and how they incorporate conscious capitalism. And then next week we have, I think it's next week, might be the week after, tenant orientation. It's a brand new program that we're putting on. Gives a chance for people to really dive into some of the tenants and work in work groups and help each other out, some networking and shared learning. So ccarizona.org, look at the events page and see how you can get involved.
Thank you so much, Luke, Megan, Sarah. This was delightful. Wish everybody a fantastic day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to People in Profit, where we showcase the businesses that are elevating humanity through their work, right here in Arizona. Learn more about us at ccarizona.org.